enough about it. So we got a little game tomorrow between two SEC schools that really don't like each other. Yeah. So excited to be here. Haven't been here in a while. Excited to watch this high-powered offense that we've been admiring from afar, and see what this rivalry is all about. You know, this is what makes this is what makes rivalries so special. We have one team that's like kind of riding high, looking great. Other team seems to be struggling, trying to find its way. I mean, obviously, Florida lost against Kentucky at home. Then they struggled, should have lost last week against USF. And this is their first time on the road all season. Like, all three of their games have been in the swamp. You know, Utah, Kentucky, and USF. So this is the first time on the road. But, you know, this is when the chip's down and people count you out. I'm really not a gambling man, but I heard the spread is like double digits, which is kind of crazy for this rivalry. So this is when, you know, legends are made and classics are made too. So we'll see. Excited about tomorrow afternoon. I can't wait to see it.
What are you expecting from the game?
Hell, did you just hear what I just said? Are you serious right now? I just gave you a whole soliloquy of what
fireworks?
I'm expecting. I'm expecting a good game. I expect. Okay, so, you know, you guys might know that I went to Michigan, right? And Michigan is like involved in a big rivalry with Ohio State. And the one thing I always tell people is I don't care what Ohio State team I study on film, them against Purdue, them against Indiana, you know, whatever. That's never the Ohio State team I'm going to see, because those maize and blue helmets just bring something out of those. So you can apply that same logic, that same theory to Tennessee, Florida. I guarantee you, Josh Heupel and that coaching staff is like, listen, I know they didn't look good against USF. I know they lost against Kentucky, but that's not the team we're going to see Saturday afternoon. They're going to bring their A game. So that's what I expect.
Do you think either one of these teams' A game could be enough for Georgia later in the season?
That's why we play the game. You know, that's exactly why we play the game. We'll see.
Have you seen enough from Stetson Bennett to maybe reevaluate your preseason look on Georgia? Do you think they're going to take a step back, or do you think that they measure up to last year's team?
I think we have a lot of football left to be played. They've looked really great against some subpar competition, but I give teams credit for doing what they're supposed to do, because we've also seen teams that have been, you know, so-called jargonauts, but when playing against the lesser opponents, they play down to their opponent's level and they win the game, but not impressively. So I give Georgia all the credit in the world for doing what they're supposed to do against the opponents that they've played.
What's your evaluation of
what do you like about this offense, Josh Heupel's offense?
Wow, you know, it's a wide open offense. It kind of it gives a lot of freedom to the receivers. I mean, especially once you study the offense, because, you know, they have routes that it's just not your traditional route tree, and they also have options on routes. So there's no reason to ever be covered. And it's a fun offense. You're going to get a lot of opportunities. So that's pretty much what I like about it. And then it puts the defense at a disadvantage, because once they decide to go hyper speed, you know, you catch defenses in predicaments where they can't do their checks and they're kind of scrambling and, you know, they're on their heels. So it gives you great advantages as a wideout.
What's your evaluation of the Tennessee defense so far this season?
Tennessee's defense, I think Tennessee's defense has been, they've been very good. But, you know, like for me, I have to judge you against better competition. That's just how I'm wired, you know what I mean? So, you know, as we go into conference play and people are really familiar with what you do is schematically, and we'll see how people try to attack their defense, and then we'll learn more about them. But, you know, so far so good.
Desmond, another Georgia question for you.
Are you a Bulldog or something?
I'm not a Bulldog. I'm a reporter. They're number one.
Are you a reporter for the Bulldogs?
I'm a reporter in Atlanta. Yes,
oh, there we go.
AJC
Okay, it
Dog
makes sense.
Nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Because you are, and you said a lot of things.
Do you follow us? Were you App State?
No, I don't
okay,
follow
I'm
you
just
guys.
curious.
No, it's good stuff. It's a great game this weekend here in Neyland Stadium. Being a Heisman Trophy expert, what would Stetson Bennett have to do to win the Heisman Trophy, in your opinion?
Well, I'm just not as I'm just not the guy to just prop people up to join my fraternity because they have a couple of good games. Like, you know, you have to be, to me, is he a Davy O'Brien trophy winner right now? Like, to me, it's amazing how people prop these players up, and they may not even be the best at their position, but yet they always want to just usher them into my fraternity. The fraternity I'm a member of. And so I was like, hey, pump your brakes, slow down. I mean, listen, week 1 after Utah, people are trying to usher in Anthony Richardson. So I will always say, hey, pump your brakes. Let's let them win like the award that's given to their position first before we start talking about they're the greatest player in all of college football. That's a hell of an honor,
Outside of
the two quarterbacks, who's your impact player to watch for either team?
That's a good question. Let me see. I think the quarterbacks drive the day. I don't have a player who I'm really focused on that's beyond Anthony Richardson and Hendon Hooker. I'm trying to think. Just those two to me is what jumps out, because there's so much. Because I don't think there's like a guy who you say, okay, this guy's a matchup nightmare. Like I don't see that on either team thus far. Now there may be a player who may emerge, but as of right now, like these two teams, especially offensively, they're going to go as their quarterbacks go.
You mentioned Anthony Richardson had a great week 1, hasn't had the best of games the last 2 weeks. What do you think has gone wrong for him?
Wow. If I had to put a finger on it, I think that people have like really tried to make him stay in the pocket and just execute from the pocket. And I believe that he's a player that with his dynamic running ability, that he needs to get out on the edges and move around to be able to make plays happen. I also think he's like operates well in the traditional quarterback role where you have to drop back and just sit in the pocket. So I think that's what has happened. I think against Utah, which was a hard-fought game because Utah's defense is really good, they pressured him a lot, and he was able to move around, and I think they probably had to move him around too so he wouldn't get sacked. And so I think that's what I've noticed so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tennessee's defense approaches it.
Now, what's it like being on stage when Coach Corso puts on the headgear and makes his pick at the end of the show?
It's cool. It's it depends on where we are in the pick. Obviously, this is like an easy pick, and we all know this team is favored. He picks that team. It's not as exciting unless we have like a guest picker who goes back and forth with him. Then that becomes fun.
Speaking of Heisman's, 97, Charles Woodson or Peyton Manning. What's your thoughts on that?
I was in the NFL. I didn't watch a lot of college football back then.
What was your reaction when you heard Gameday was coming to Knoxville this weekend?
I was excited because we hadn't been here in a long time, and obviously, like I said, from afar, I've been admiring Josh Heupel's offense and watching the growth and development of Hendon Hooker. So I love having the opportunity to see things live and in person, and to watch these guys do what they do. Plus, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. That's what makes these games so special. One team is favored. One team seems like it's kind of down in the dumps. They're kind of trying to figure it out. They're struggling. The quarterback hasn't even thrown a touchdown yet. You know what I mean? And then they come here and magic happens. So that's why we're all here.
Thanks, Des.